impeachment. There are 7 articles of impeachment. Number 1, conspiracy to kill the president, the first lady, and the speaker. So would you say that this is an impeachable offense, or would this have been covered by a local law, like filing? Because remember, there was already a complaint filed in the, I think, local, and I think NBI held an investigation, but it seems like that no criminal case was filed in relation to this supposed conspiracy to kill the president.
For the first ground, Karen, Attorney Karen, we anchored that under betrayal of public trust, because our appreciation of that for the second highest official of the land to articulate a threat to the life against the highest official of the land, the wife of this highest official, and the 4th highest official of the land, that would be a betrayal of public trust, no? Of course, we understand that if this threat will be executed, no one else will succeed to the president but the vice president. And having manifested this kind of demeanor, the question now is whether or not she's still worthy of the trust of the public. And in the impeachment complaint, it was our stand that there's a sufficient basis for betrayal of public trust because of the threat that she articulated during that night when Attorney Zuleika Lopez was detained in the House of Representatives.
Mm-hmm. And going to the second ground, malversation of 612 million in confidential funds. Do you think there's any sufficient ground for this, considering that the Commission on Audit has not concluded its own investigation or audit of those funds?
Well, Attorney Karen, I think the Commission Audit has already reported and provided Congress the liquidation report of these funds. And we're able to see that the names of those who were given these funds were fictitious. So that is one strong ground also for impeachment.
And is that a practice that's not acceptable when it comes to confidential funds? I think that's something that's not clear to the public. When it comes to confidential funds, are you still supposed to disclose the people that have received the funds, or is it an acceptable reason that you're not supposed to disclose if they are what they call assets or intelligence assets whose security will be compromised?
From my end, Attorney Karen, public fund is public accountability. So notwithstanding the fact that it forms part of the confidential fund, to some extent, you should be able to prove that there are indeed recipients of this fund. Ang nangyari po dito sa confidential fund, supported as well by the NBI specimen signature examination. Bukod sa iisang tao lang ang may-ari nung penmanship or strokes ng perma, it was confirmed also by the PSA that these personalities do not appear at all in the data of the Philippine Statistics Authority. So how can we tell that these are real people who actually receive the money?
Okay. And next ground would be bribery and corruption at DepEd. Can you elaborate further on this?
For the third ground, I believe that it is because of the admission of the 3 DepEd officials that indeed mayroong payola na umiikot sa Department of Education. Of course, we understand that is a violation of the law on bribery and corruption, no? For us, our take on that is it can be considered also as a betrayal of public trust.
And for that matter, three officials of DepEd admitted to have received this payola from her office.
And then the next would be unexplained wealth and failure to disclose assets. How did this come about? Were you able to have access to bank accounts? The SALN, of course, is publicly available, but how were you able to reconcile undisclosed assets?
There are documents which were shared by former Senator Antonio Trillanes during the, I believe, Quadcom hearing, no, about what he claims to be ill-gotten wealth, drug money, things like that, no? And we would like to see as well during the impeachment process whether there will be sufficient evidence to support this allegation. That's why we considered it as well to be part of the ground for the impeachment complaint.
And Congresswoman Jinky, I would just like to have a follow-up question on that, because when we say that we'd like to see during this impeachment whether there are sufficient grounds to support this specific allegation, isn't that something that should be dealt with prior to the filing of the impeachment complaint? Kong Nonoy earlier raised that if this went to the House Committee on Justice, that is something that would have had the process akin to a preliminary investigation where they would determine if there are sufficient grounds, because constitutionally we can't use the impeachment court for a fishing expedition to gather evidence. It has to be done at the level of the prosecution before a complaint is filed. So, paano po yung evidence here in terms of allegations of ill-gotten
Well,
wealth?
for the first three grounds, I believe that the evidence is sufficient for the purpose of initiating the impeachment complaint. For the fourth, I believe that additional evidence has to be provided to be able to come up with a basis for the ill-gotten wealth. Nonetheless, I submit that there are discovery modes which can be resorted to during the impeachment trial.
Okay. And Kong Nonoy, what's your take on that as a lawyer?
Well, that's also my my take that the first three impeachment complaints are more than enough.
And we have also a charge on involvement in extrajudicial killings relating to the Davao Death Squad. For those reading the complaint, I think during the hearings, committee hearings, it was clear that this related to an investigation on EJ case, which related to former President Duterte's policy on anti-drugs during the drug war. But this was not so much connected to Vice President Sara. So why was this also chosen as a ground for impeachment?
You know, Attorney Karen, this is one of the issues which is fondly asked, popularly asked by Filipino people. So we would like to consider that as well to become part of the impeachment complaint for the Filipino people to see whether there's really sufficient basis to include the same for the purpose of the impeachment process of the Vice President. But just like what Minority Leader has said, for the first three grounds, we are confident that there is solid basis to initiate an impeachment complaint. For the fourth and the fifth, we would like to resort to the discovery mode, which I believe is available during the impeachment trial.
And the sixth would be destabilization, insurrection, and public disorder. This relates to which specific acts of the Vice President?
Attorney Karen, there were a lot of public appearances and rallies where she uttered statements to destabilize our government that can be properly shown during the trial.
Okay, so those are different acts of the Vice President in the past, in public rallies. Okay, people were curious because this was not in relation to any of the committee hearings.
And even in her interviews.
So it's more of her public statements.
Yeah.
And lastly, abuse of power. So this relates to what specific acts?
Abuse of power, I believe, is because of the misuse of funds which happened in the Department of Education and the OVP, because apparently there is no reference at all with respect to the rules which have to be followed. But I believe this is just one of the several instances which can be considered as abuse of funds, abuse of power. I understand that there are seven, no? Seven, and the seventh ground, I believe, is like a summary of the totality of the acts which were committed by the Vice President. And to conclude our appreciation about this impeachment complaint, we submit really that the first three grounds are the one which is solid, and for the four remaining grounds, we will be looking forward to the development and progress of the impeachment process, hoping to see more evidence during the modes of discovery of evidence during the impeachment process.